With the tenacity of a giant squid, this is Drop Your Buffs, a podcast discussing Survivor. Well, that was the premiere episode of Survivor Game Changers. With me tonight is my usual co-host, Craig.
Hello, Stu. Survivor's back.
It is. It's back with a bang. It's back with a bang. But we're doing something different tonight.
The game has changed.
The game has changed. We've got a special guest, and this is someone who has actually never seen Survivor before. So I guess he's one of the Unsullied, isn't he? Really?
Oh yes.
One of the Unsullied?
Game of Thrones reference, I love it.
So our special guest is Dave. How did you find your the first episode of Survivor for you?
Boys, thanks for having me, first of all. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Having not watched a single thing of Survivor in my life, but having watched plenty of reality shows to compare it to. But as we were chatting about, I could have done with a bit more action. I wanted more action, more challenges, more things happening. It was a bit of a talk fest, this first one, but I get that.
It was a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think they were setting up some of the alliances, some of the competitors are going to be playing very strongly against each other. So I was happy with it.
Maybe that's part of the fact that they're all pretty experienced competitors. So what you guys call this social game is very important, I guess, in this series.
And started very early.
Yeah, it did.
It is, because you know that the real true Survivor fans, if they're going back through old seasons and watching them, they don't watch any of the challenges. They only watch the social parts of the seasons, and that's all they look for is the strategy. So
you know how on podcasts you can get the thing which plays back the podcast at like 1.5 times normal speed. Can you do that on the reruns just to get through the social stuff and get that part a bit quicker and just get to the meat of the stuff?
Well,
interesting idea.
That's right. Well, thanks very much, Dave, for joining us, and we'll be keen to see what your fresh eyes bring and what sort of new perspective you bring to.
Me too. I can't wait to step on a few landmines. Let's go.
Well, of course, we start off with the old sailing ship sailing
on a
in
boat.
and
On a boat. I love it when they start on the boat.
It looked fantastic as per usual.
And Jeff, when Jeff did his 39 days, 20 people, one survivor thing, he was on a sunken boat. So the boat was capsized. He was on the boat there.
It was very dramatic. It was very dramatic. It's a kind of a shipwreck theme all the way through the show that looks pretty cool, actually.
It looks really cool. Great. I thought the whole boat thing, for someone who's never watched Survivor before, was quite amazing. I thought, wow, this show's going to spend an absolute ton of money. And then they didn't for the next 50 minutes after that. It all got quite sedated.
But don't forget, we've just watched episode 500 of Survivor, and they started it exactly the way episode 1 began way back when. So I thought that was a nice touch.
Game changers.
Game stayed the same.
Yes, it was one of the points I'll probably talk about later.
Now they also had they started off with like a bit of a mini challenge that was just written as if it was purely written for Aussie, and it was extra special tools that you had to release through untying some knots, and it was basically a challenge that was made for Aussie, and of course he completely nailed it.
As he always does. Dives in and off he goes, and holds his breath for about 14 minutes and gets the toolkit.
He hasn't lost anything, I don't think, has he? I
don't think so, no.
He looks pretty fit.
He can still swim.
We were all calling him Aquaman. Is that the going thing? Because he looked
that's
like
what
he got the dreads,
we
went in there, went for it.
I don't think anyone has officially called him that on the show, but that's fine. We can call him that on this podcast. There's nothing wrong with that.
So they scramble through all the supplies and so on to get, and there was actually I was surprised that no one wasn't injured just getting off the boat, because there was some pretty dramatic moments there.
Ty nearly was. He ended up with a chicken crate laying on his head.
That's right.
I'm surprised the chicken survived.
The chicken sound effect. Yeah. Which is ironic given how much Ty loves the chickens.
Yes,
we know he loves the chickens. And
I like Thai chicken too.
Yeah.
Especially on a Friday night after work. Fantastic.
Good grief.
So they finally got to their rafts and they got to the beach. And I think what happens pretty much straight away, Tony hits the beach running, looking for an idol.
Yeah, within 2 minutes, wasn't it? Straight into it.
Yeah, and that's when I had to ask you what the hell is going on here. Because as someone who's never watched Survivor, there's not a lot of instructions for a new viewer. You're expected to understand.
That's true.
What is going on? There's no real. I mean, the host wouldn't shut up with his commentary through the challenges, but actually in the rest of the time, you're left to your own devices as the viewer to figure out what is happening.
Well, you make your own...
That's a good point.
It is a good point. You form your own opinions, though. You get your own interpretation of what's going on. Some people like different players, so you can. Yeah, it's.
I just thought he was a lunatic for the first 15 minutes, but that seemed to be the conclusion that was reached later in the show anyway.
Exactly. But what was funny, interesting about that is Sandra and Caleb were straight onto it and followed him.
Yeah.
Like, we know what he's doing. He did this last time, straight after him.
Do people go out and find these idols like that? Do they just walk? Yeah, they do.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
So it's
they
a strategy. It's
Yes,
a thing.
it is,
absolutely, yeah.
because they know that somewhere out there's an idol, and they know that the sort of likely spots where they normally hide these idols, and people have found idols all the time without any clues. So that's
And Tony has, as we know, has an amazing history from his previous seasons of finding idols. See?
That's right.
There you go. Knew what he's doing.
And then we hear from Zeke, who absolutely loves his tribe. Now, Zeke was from
Best
the...
tribe ever, he said. He's got Aussie, JT and Siri. He was in heaven.
Oh, he was. I like Zeke. He's like a bit of a cartoon character, isn't he? He's just like this ball of energy. He's almost like an extra from the birdcage, isn't he?
And did you hear, and did you hear he said he wants to lather himself in the blood of his enemies?
I love that. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
See, that's when I thought, this is all about action, this show. Here we go.
Now, Sierra with an S, wasn't it? Finds the legacy advantage.
On the boat? Yes, she did. On the boat, yep.
That was on the boat, yes. Yep. Now, what was that one again, Craig? Have you got the
yeah, so what that is it provides immunity when there are 13 people left and 6 people left. But if she's voted out with that still in her possession, she has to will it to somebody. So it's quite specific about when you can actually use it.
It seems like quite a long-term play to introduce in the first 5 minutes of the show, because it wasn't then spoken about for the next 2 hours.
No, it wasn't.
And it really won't be of any relevance for a little while, most likely, unless she gets
voted
out, expelled, or whatever it is.
Except that she can use it as a tool or leverage in forming alliances with people. So she
That's
can sort of
right.
say, I have this advantage that I can use at this specific point in the game, particularly as you approach that point in the game.
Yeah, once you approach the point, then yeah.
So, but it's interesting. It's interesting how specific they've made that. 13 people left and 6 people left. So it'll be interesting. It's really
Do you
interesting.
think they might have certain challenges at that time, which...
remains to be seen what they'll do with that.
Okay.
Really don't know. But of course, if she's voted out in the meantime, she is required to will it to somebody. So it'll be fascinating to see how that will actually occur. Does it happen immediately after she's voted out of tribal council? I mean, what happens there? That'll be really.
And she can
fascinating.
reveal this to other people, right?
Yeah, I don't think it says she has to keep it secret.
No, that's right.
So
that's
I think she's absolutely free to she can share it. She can keep it to herself, but tell someone she's got it. It's up to her really how she uses that to her strategic advantage.
She has to be careful though, because if enough people find out, then that's just another target on her.
That's a good reason to get rid of her before round 13.
But no one knows she's got it.
Except it would be passed on to someone else in that case. Yeah,
True. That's true.
So,
yes.
we're talking about Aussie before, actually. Did you notice he seemed to have a scar on his lip? I'm sure that he didn't have that before, so I'm not sure where he earned that scar.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't actually notice that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he had a new scar on his lip, so
Okay.
I'm not sure what that's all about.
Spotted.
But Suri, there seems to be a bit of tension from Suri and Aussie based on their earlier season, which was 8 years ago, and Suri was basically saying, get over it, Aussie, sort of thing. But there was certainly a bit of tension there between those two.
But it never really came to anything later in the show, though.
It didn't, no.
I feel like that was a setup for something
Yeah,
3 shows from now.
I think that's the beginning of a story arc that'll probably go through it, and we'll probably hear more of that. But the background to it is that she was instrumental in having Aussie voted out in fans versus favourites. So he's obviously harbouring some
He holds a grudge.
grudges, but equally, I think Siri might be harbouring some guilt, perhaps, about what she did.
Oh, no, I see. I thought she looked pretty cocky with herself, to be perfectly honest.
That's right.
So the fact that they were talking about it was...
And the rate Aussie's collecting scars, he must hold a lot of grudges.
Well, Ty seems to like Suri though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And they seem
said
like
that.
a
She said that.
Yeah, I mean they seem like a natural sort of a natural pair, I guess, in some ways. Although Suri very quickly saw through Ty's poor.
They were the ones having the chat.
Poor lying attempts.
Yes, we were talking about that.
It's
Ty
just-
basically has no ability to lie.
No,
Yeah,
well, no.
correct.
And it's
Lie reliably, perhaps.
no, it is very hard for him as well because English is not his first language to start with, so he's got a bit of a disadvantage there. But even though Suri is all nice and friendly and bubbly and everything, she's very clever and she's always paying attention to what people are doing.
As far as the social side of Survivor goes, I mean, Suri is as switched on as anyone who's ever played, and She was always renowned for that aspect of the game. I think she was underestimated when the very first time she played, and very quickly she proved that she was not someone to be trifled with. And I think we're going to see that again. And the fact that she's prepared she's already in this altercation with Ozzy, who is also one of the greats of the game. I mean, I think that sets that up beautifully for the episodes that are going to follow.
Cool.
Yeah, well, that was the blue Nuku tribe. Moving over to the red Mana tribe, Tony's working on Spy Shack 2.0.
Yeah, awesome.
Love it.
Awesome.
Bear Grylls should play Survivor. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic
Kill
idea.
it. Yeah.
What would his social game be like?
Celebrity Survivor. I assume they've done that.
Well, they have, but there's been
Bear Grylls would just win instantly.
It's pretty likeable. Yeah, he might do pretty well.
But Tony was doing an underground bunker style, and I thought this was almost a callback to Rupert's tragic sort of shelter bunker that he dug on the beach many seasons ago. Rupert was a big fan favorite, Dave, and he for some reason decided to build their shelter by digging a hole in the sand on the beach.
I wondered where you were going with that. Yeah,
but then just completely caved
complete
in.
disaster.
I thought, Tony, don't start digging.
That's right.
It's not going to end well.
Oh, I love how Spy Shack made an early appearance. That was fantastic.
I assumed he was doing it to just mess with them because there was
there's an element of that.
actually no practical way that was going to work, right? They all walked over and said, look, a hole, and he's covered it up.
I reckon, though, as we found out later, I mean, if he had not been sprung by Sandra and Troyzan in the middle of the night later on in the episode, I reckon he actually might have achieved something there. He might have dug quite a substantial hole.
Surely it was a red herring for something he was going to build somewhere else, which is actually useful.
Yeah, I mean, where it was, people could just step on it.
I know, it's right there.
Now, that would have been funny. No, imagine that. There he is lying there under his branches and someone steps on him. That'd be hilarious.
Well, then we cut to Caleb is walking along the slippery rocks. Has a bad fall. And I was thinking, Caleb, the one who was medevaced off a couple of seasons ago, and here he is.
Yeah, I was thinking, not again. That couldn't happen a second time, surely.
Another accident, in inverted commas?
Another accident?
Yeah, as in from this guy, he's not quite as
yeah.
sure-footed as he looks.
Well,
it wasn't really an accident last time, was it? He was.
No.
He got heat stroke.
He got heat stroke?
Heat stroke after a particularly nasty challenge.
While digging in sand.
Not
good for you.
Yeah.
And they don't give you sun cream, I've learned. Because I asked you, is that part of the essentials? And apparently not. So,
there's no sun cream, there's no hats.
No, if it's in Australia, that'll be dead after the 40 days of skin cancer.
And then we've got Sierra with a C, and she's throwing a lot of names out apparently about people that she's that she thinks are threats.
The two main ones she was talking about there were Tony and Caleb, weren't they? So it was an early conversation with Jeff Varner, Aubrey, Malcolm, and Haley. I'm talking about potentially get Tony or Caleb out,
which are two strong players. It's
absolutely.
It just seems a bit premature to start voting off the strong players, as we'll probably find out.
Yes.
We get we finally get to the first bit of action, Dave, don't we?
I know. I woke up. There is action. There is actually challenges on this thing. Here we go.
Now, I love how they've got the diving helmet as the immunity.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
I like the whole theme. Looks really good. And at this point, this is where Jeff talks about the rules change about tied votes.
Yes.
So we did talk about this in the
preview.
In the preview. So
does it happen often? Does that tied vote thing come up a lot? Like, is it a big deal as they're making it out?
Occasionally.
I would say probably comes up once a season.
Yeah.
That's okay. Because they were all carrying on when they were told about it, like it was,
well, that rule
quite a big deal, but it only comes up once a season.
That rule has stood for a long time.
Right.
So for them to change it, and it does change some strategy, as we talked in terms of the splitting of votes, because the splitting of votes has been used to flush out idols. That's not as easy to do now that they've changed that rule.
Well, I think the thing is it makes splitting votes dangerous, and that is something that they do quite often.
Right.
So they'll be less likely to want to do splitting of votes if they're going to potentially get a tie. So that's the
impact is on basically every vote then.
It changes strategy. It changes how you work out what you're going to do at tribal council. Okay. So it's a significant development, and it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Are all the two challenges we saw in this episode were pretty physical. That second one we'll talk about later was pretty
very
physical.
Yeah.
Are they all like that? I mean, are you stuffed if you're not, pretty physically fit in this game?
No, there are some that require dexterity, so it might be balancing on something or balancing balls or things like that.
There's memory challenges, there's eating challenges, but the seasons do tend to begin with fairly physical sorts of challenges, don't they? Yeah, there's nothing unusual about the way they've done that. Quite often happens that way.
And what did you boys? You've watched more than this. When you saw that first challenge, you're like, "Wow, this is something very different," or "This is what we normally get," or what did you think of this first challenge?
I think the first challenge was a variation on a theme that we've seen before. The second one, which we'll get to, I thought was probably a level above because of the sheer physicality of getting the snake out. We'll talk about that, but the snake getting out of the cage, that was genuinely hard work. So they're both good challenges though. Enjoyed them both.
Okay,
both had good elements. Yep.
This one started off with the sort of swimming element. And
Aussie
so on.
swimming again.
That's right. Yep. And the blue team who Aussie is on, they were the first to get the puzzle pieces, but red wasn't too far behind.
Yeah, it was quite close.
Debbie stalled on the locks, so that really set her team behind. But blue got to working on the puzzle first. They got their puzzle pieces out first, and at that stage was pretty dead even again.
It was, yeah. But look, Siri and Zeke were working really well together, and Sarah and Sandra a little bit further behind, and Siri and Zeke got the job done.
Yep, they sure did. And poor Sierra with a C was lamenting the fact that she lost the same puzzle that she lost on in the last season she was on, which I had forgotten that actually.
Against her mother last time.
Obviously stuck in her memory though. Yeah. I wrote down here, having not watched much of Survivor, it was interesting to watch that challenge in that 90% of the challenge was about skill and physical ability until you got to the keys with the lock.
Yeah.
And that was about luck. I mean, that was really, did you happen to pick up the right key that went into that one? And I was kind of interesting to think, well, that was a fairly high degree of chance right there in the challenge. And
at a critical point.
At a critical point. And the other team caught up a bit because they happened to pick the right keys. So I thought, is that fair? Or is because it was quite interesting. They can do all of their stuff about being strong or smart or whatever, but there was a huge roll of the dice right there that was outside of everyone's hands.
Yeah, that's a good point. So
back to camp.
Yeah, back to camp with the pre-tribal scramble.
And it was a bit of a scramble, wasn't it?
No, Dave, this is what it's called. It's called a pre-tribal scramble.
No. I did a good job of stifling my laugh, but I'll go with that. I'll run with it.
Everyone's scrambling.
That's the official term. I'm sure it's in the wiki somewhere. Tony and Malcolm were talking about Sierra. I thought it was funny how Sandra, when she sort of approached that little discussion, she didn't want to name any names, so she was keen not to really get too involved.
She was coy, wasn't she?
But pretty much from that moment on, then she changed the tune, wasn't she? She was much more forward after that. But at that stage, she was keen to go with the flow. But I thought it was funny how that they were telling Sierra that they were really going to vote for Michaela. Everyone was happy with that, apart from Michaela, of course. Which
she took that pretty bad, actually. Yeah.
And look, Sandra got it absolutely spot on when she said the plan was fine, it was going fine, until someone actually told Michaela that we were talking about Michaela. I mean, they could have come up with anything else, but actually, I think it was Jeff, wasn't it? Jeff was really honest about it, Jeff Varner. And he sort of said, yeah, it's you, Michaela, we're talking, but don't worry, it's fine. I mean, I'd be paranoid if anyone said we're talking about shit.
They could have done a much better job on bringing her on the journey. Someone could have quietly gone and said, look, we're cooking this thing up, we're just using your name, chill, it's all good. But it was very much dumped on her, and everything had happened, and she was finding out very post-fact what had occurred.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt for her a bit there.
And, and her personality as well. She's going, well, hang on, no.
Is she the one that they say if she's got the fiery temper and lights up and burn the whole place down? Is that the one?
Yes, Aubrey said she's got a bit of a hot streak.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
Okay.
So, but this kind of thing has happened before, and it's funny how no one likes being the bait.
No.
I guess you don't know if you're pretending to be the bait or actually are the bait, and the goat tethered to the pole.
And that's the problem. In her case, she didn't know, and it was like, "Whoa, what do you mean you're talking about me?" I mean, she was understandably freaked out.
But you would also think in a game where she needs to consider her responses could perform badly for her. Her response to the situation wasn't a very measured one. It was
and this was
she looked pretty ticked off.
Yeah,
this was her trouble in the last season was that, as she said just earlier in this episode, she's a very truthful person. She can't keep these things to herself, and she'll just shoot her mouth off about something, and she just can't. I think she needs to keep that in, otherwise she won't get very far.
That doesn't sound like a winning Survivor strategy to me.
No, that's right.
I only watched 2 episodes.
So should we get to the tribal council?
Yeah, off to.
Let's go. My first tribal council.
Yes.
Tribal council.
And Caleb's as well.
Once I had the rules explained to me, I understood what was going on because the show wasn't really going to tell me too much until it was a bit deep into the whole thing.
Exactly. Well, even the basics of the fire torches and so on. You were saying,
What the hell have I got a torch for? Yeah. There's plenty of light. They're literally going to roast someone here or brand them on the way out.
Yeah, no, the whole torch is really not only symbolises life, but symbolises them as well. So there's been seasons where, at the very end of the season, the final survivors will walk along a path that has all the fallen torches of the previous people before them. It's all very symbolic and
Rites of
everything.
passage. They
I mean, they know it's a game on TV, right? Okay, just checking.
Survivor's not just a game.
Great set, though. What do we think about the set?
Love the
Also
set.
continuing the shipwreck theme.
Should be called Survivor Shipwreck. I don't know why it's called Game Changers. Shipwreck would be much better.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Survivor, Robinson Crusoe.
That'd be good too. I like that.
This one's right on the beach. It's out in the open this time. There's no cover and there's no roof over it. It's very, very exposed to the elements.
I liked all the questions. Who's the main guy?
Jeff Probst.
Yep. I liked him and all of his questions there. They're really direct questions. There's no stuffing around when he was questioning them all before the vote. He gets right.
Tribal Council, I reckon, for me, is where Jeff comes into his own. I mean, he's done 500 of them by now, so he's very, very experienced. He's sat through some unbelievable events happen at Tribal Council over the years, but he does manage to go right to the heart of the issue.
He knows what to say,
he knows
who
what to ask, what buttons to push.
He obviously has a great crew with all his hidden cameras watching everything, and he's very well prepped.
I read once he actually says he doesn't watch any of the footage coming out of camp. He doesn't actually know exactly what's going on. Now, that's not to say people don't tell him. But, he's very good at going right to the heart of the issue and knowing exactly which button to push to get the answer. Yeah. So we start talking about Tony. Tony's looking for idols, and Mal's like, we're enjoying ourselves, but Tony's off getting idols straight away, and there's a lot of talk about how the game had started.
I thought it was good how Sandra was saying, she was making her own case, really saying that she was the best person to take to the end because... if you may or may not know, you sort of get down to a final 2 or final 3, and so people want to end up at the end with someone they think they can beat, basically.
Okay.
And so she's saying, no one's going to give me the win for the 3rd time in a row. So
I'm a natural second, so you want to be with me to be first.
Yeah. So that's a pretty strong argument, to be honest.
It's clever play, I think. It's really good tactically. Yeah.
She's obviously good at this social part of the game as we see it play out. Yeah.
I also liked when they got to the voting, the really cool sort of voting vestibule that they had looked.
What do you call it? A voting vestibule?
The voting vestibule.
I don't use vestibule in my vernacular very much. Got it in before you.
Well, should we go through the votes?
We'll go through the votes. All look in the end, there's not much to say really. Sierra got 9 votes. Michaela got 1.
Game over.
I can barely remember the Sierra girl. Obviously, you knew her more from previous.
We know her pretty well. She's played a lot of Survivor, but it was quick this time. 9 votes to 1.
She was the one who voted off her mum, so she was the one who was, So, I guess we should say a few words about Sierra.
We should.
As I was just saying before, she was the one that's known for voting off her mum. She unfortunately lost on the same puzzle again, which that must really hurt, mustn't it? Have you got any last words, Craig?
No, look, I'm disappointed to see Sierra go. I think she might have been a lot of fun, but we'll never know.
No. Okay. And actually, she was on my fantasy survivor league as well. So
I know
I'm
that.
not very
You seem
impressed
more
with her
upset about that than anything
exactly,
else. Yeah.
Exactly. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is this episode 2 or is it all
Episode 1.5?
Did they actually join 2 episodes together, or are we seeing one episode they made deliberately this way? Do we know that?
Wow, I don't know. It's a double length premiere episode, I guess, is the way you'd say it. But
It looked like 2 episodes to me. They felt like very much a final, and then we had an ad break and we were back.
Yeah. So we're back on day 4.
Tony's bored and tired of sitting back. He wants to make some moves.
Oh, is this when we had the infrared cameras on or the nighttime cameras?
That came later, yes.
Oh, okay.
But shortly, immediately it was daytime. We're back at camp, and he's bored.
Yeah,
he's bored. He's running off. He wants to do something.
They must be bored because these challenges only seem to come along about every
sort of 2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days, and the other 2 or 3 days they're just sitting around feeding chickens and strategizing about stuff. That's pretty much it, right?
Well, of course, we don't always see what they get up to, but I think some of the time they might be just looking for idols, perhaps. So they can be doing
Tony certainly is, we know
that.
Well,
mate, out Tony's doing this thing that no one else is doing, so you're telling me now they're all up when the camera's not watching out looking for idols.
They could be.
Well, we don't know.
We don't know. They could be...
Fishing,
as
we've learned.
Exactly,
yes,
fishing, collecting firewood. getting water, which they do all the time.
That's all they seem to do is get water on this show, yeah. Where should we meet? I don't know, the water place? That sounds good, let's go.
Well, I guess it's like the Survivor version of the water cooler, isn't it? So you
is.
sort of group over there and you talk about things.
It's except at work, the water cooler, I go there because there's literally nowhere else to go, but they are on a deserted island. They've got like hundreds of places to go down the beach and up on this rocky atoll and
but the reason why they
to
go
the vestibule.
Yeah, but the reason why they go to the water place is because it's less suspicious because everyone has to get water, so they're just going to get water.
That's what makes it suspicious, though, because everyone does their strategizing at the water thing. If I see you going for water, I know exactly what you're doing. Or if you said I'm going to get some coconuts, I'd be like, fine, go.
Well, speaking of strategizing, you had Sandra and Tony there talking about what about an alliance of winners? Because if you get to the end,
I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, I thought this was outstanding.
It is because there are
perfect sense.
There are quite a few winners there, and all they need is to get 3 of them together, and then they've each got pretty much an equal shot then at the ends. But as we'll see later on, that probably doesn't pan out for Sandra and Tony. So.
But look, I liked the sentiment. It's still not necessarily dead as a strategy because we still have other people in the game who won, like JT. So it still could happen. She could.
Yeah. No, good.
Survivors, winners versus losers.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Next season.
Well, actually, that would be an absolute cracker. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Everyone who came first versus everyone who came second.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Down, Craig.
Jeff Probst, if you're listening.
You're not going to get any sleep tonight now, are you?
You heard it first. We think this would be awesome.
Well, that takes us over to the blue tribe again, the blue Nuku tribe.
Yep.
And we're back with Ty and his chickens.
Ty and his chickens.
Because Ty loves his chickens. And as he's a self-confessed chicken guy.
He loves it. He absolutely loves it. And he wanted to... What was he doing? He was tying up the rooster, but letting the other ones run free. Is that what he was doing?
He was letting the hens run free, thinking they would hang around the rooster.
And Debbie's there just sort of going, no, don't get too attached. And then he said, I want to give them names. And as soon as you give them names, it's hard to kill them and eat them. And
I think there was about half a dozen chickens, which I think is about as many I've seen in one spot on Survivor. Because normally they might get 1 or 2, or maybe 3.
It looked like there was one in that box that he threw off the boat that fell into the water, but 6 of them came out. So
And then it turns out Ty's feeding the chickens all their corn. JT's a little bit upset about that.
I set corn-fed organic chicken, mate.
Well,
it's going to pay off in about 6 weeks from now if he's still there.
It's going to be tasty. I tell you, JT was a little bit unhappy about that amount of food being given to the chickens.
Should we go back over to the red team, the red Mana team, and Tony's back there digging his bunker
at the water cooler.
This is the nighttime one where he went on his commando nighttime race?
That's him. Yep.
Okay, yep.
I've got all night to do it, he said, but he didn't.
No, he had by the way they edited it, about 2 minutes before someone else realised he'd not so ninja-like snuck off.
Yeah, so Sandra and Troyzan had the other idea to get up in the middle of the night and go and have a strategy chat, which they did
right near the water cooler.
Right near the water cooler and Spice Shack 2.0.
Have they seen Tony leave, or did they realise that he was gone? That's why they
don't know. I don't know. Look, it didn't appear that way, but perhaps they did. Perhaps they did see him go or heard him go, or who knows. But they certainly didn't show it. They didn't give us enough to know.
But they must have seen Tony, because I think they surprised him, or did he jump up and say, "What are you talking about?"
He ran bushes again.
Yeah, he ran off to hide, but then he reappeared. And what are you talking about? And
he was a bit weird when he did that. I thought he was very aggressive with both of them.
Yeah, that's just Tony. He's just full on all the time, basically.
Yeah. There's a level of paranoia about, people are going to vote me off, and so he's immediately there trying to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and he wasn't very happy with Sandra's weak excuse, which was
a weak excuse.
I love how she stuck with that excuse later in the tribal council too, like it was gospel. You shouldn't be paranoid. We were doing this when actually he was dead right and had every reason to be paranoid.
Adios.
Adios.
Then back in the blue tribe, Cerie's thinking about JT and Aussie and thinking that they're pretty tight actually, and we see a bit of a sequence where she's trying to make connections with a few people on her team, which is, I think she's struggling really, isn't she? Because she first she sort of sees that JT and Aussie seem pretty tight, so she probably thinks she can't really get in there. So then she's talking to Sarah, and it seems like Sarah, was kind of on board, but then she later said to camera that that she was just saying anything basically, and she can't be trusted.
She said she'll go with anyone who wants to vote Siri out.
Yeah.
So that's pretty flaky.
And she said her word is not her bond. So
Yeah, well, she's playing like a criminal this time,
In this
not a
game,
cop.
she made that clear. Her word is not her bond. In this game.
because she is a police officer in real life.
Police
Not a
officer?
good job interview. That's right. Yeah.
She's a police officer. She played like a cop last time, and
Now she's playing like a robber.
up against Tony last time. She came a cropper. So this time she is playing like a criminal or a robber, whatever you want to call her. Then we saw Siri with Zeke having a chat with him, and then we saw her having a chat with Debbie,
Who
said I don't fully trust her.
No, and Debbie is the captain of Civil Air Patrol.
I love Debbie. There was not enough Debbie in these two shows for me.
We did not get a lot of Debbie.
Yeah.
Debbie is fantastic.
I want to understand how she's paid by training and not money.
Yes,
yeah, that was really fascinating.
Yeah, she was not paid in dollars. She's paid in what, experience or something?
In training and experience.
Yes,
Wow,
yeah.
can you buy food with the training and experience? I'm very interested as to how that all works. She's awesome. Complete Fruit Loop, but lovely.
She's very entertaining. Back on the Red Tribe, we get back to Sandra again, who's getting a lot of screen time on this episode.
Awful, which is fantastic since she's part of my.
Well, no, can I tell you, I don't watch Survivor, but I do watch MasterChef in Australia, and whoever gets the most screen time in MasterChef, it normally doesn't work out very well for them in the very immediate future. Yeah, particularly in early episodes. The people who aren't getting much screen time in the early episodes, we know they're around for a while because we've got plenty of time to give them screen time later.
That's right.
But,
That's certainly true. That's certainly true. That's happened before.
yeah.
And as Sandra said, you're only the king until the queen arrives.
And the Queen is in town.
She doesn't like
wants Tony
threats.
going home.
Yeah, there's only room in this town for one of them.
But pretty quickly, she had a new alliance.
Yeah, it didn't really show enough of her actually getting these alliances, but you seem to just get these alliances like this all the time.
One of the other, now I loved it. I was listening to you guys in your warm-up podcast. You don't call them contestants, you call them characters. By the way, I quite like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the other characters on this reality TV show said that she pulled together these alliances in like 15 minutes. And that's what it looked like. It looked like she just flitted around and then it was done and, she went back to her throne room and patted her dragons.
I'm wondering though whether the way things turned out that perhaps we didn't see all of that. So we saw Troyzan, we saw Jeff Varner, we saw Haley, and we saw Michaela. We saw all of them having chats with her and ultimately forming that alliance. But the way the votes later fell,
I didn't quite see it have the play out with some of the other stronger guys.
I think the way the votes fell, people like Caleb and Malcolm, who ultimately voted with, or not with her, but in the majority alliance, that she might have also done some work there that convinced them that we didn't see. I'm not sure. We don't know that, but that's the way it appears to me, that there was more to that alliance than we were led to believe.
I actually like some of the second string players who kept, I call them second stringers, I don't know what else to call them, but the ones who aren't threats, because everyone in this show is either a threat or not a threat.
Yeah.
So the not a threats who are kind of saying, this is awesome. The threats are kind of taking each other out. I don't really care which one takes it out. I thought it was.
It's classic Survivor.
Happy.
Classic Survivor gameplay. You do not want a target on your own back, and if it's on someone else's back, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I can see how that would be.
Yep.
The only risk is, though, if you get to the end, never having really done anything, just sort of floating along the thing, then no one's going to give you the win because you haven't really earned it.
It's a short-term strategy.
Yeah,
I see. Yeah.
I
did like the battle of wills though between Sandra and Tony.
it was
two
great.
titans of the.
Well, they are both
Two former winners.
Yeah,
they're both strong characters, and
Yes.
and
you don't have to put the quotation marks. That's just what you were calling them.
And okay, so then we get to the second and final challenge for this premiere episode. So there's only 2 challenges in this whole 2-hour episode.
Is that what usually happens?
No, we normally get more than that.
Yeah, it's normally 1 or 2 per episode.
So there could have been 4.
There could have
So
been.
the one time I watched Survivor.
Well, that just means you have to watch it again.
Exactly.
Jeez.
To make up for it next week.
So this one though was an immunity and reward challenge.
Big challenge this one.
So Dave, what they often do if they're doing 2 challenges, they'll do the first one will be just reward only, the second one just immunity only. So they've combined this one together, and this was something a bit different because they had this heavy snake that was probably filled with sand or something, wasn't it?
must have
I guess?
been.
Or,
No, it
or
floated.
sand.
It floated.
yeah, it did float,
So
yeah.
I'm thinking it was absorbing water as well. So the water was allowing it to float, but creating something very heavy when you wanted it to.
I mean, Caleb said later he thought it weighed 600 or 700 pounds, which is that's heavy.
Yeah. So I think it was something
really heavy.
quite water absorbent.
Probably.
Yeah.
It looked bloody.
Well, it might have
heavy,
just been sand that just filled up, as you say, it's filled
No,
up with water
yeah.
and made it even heavier. So, yeah.
I think if it was sand, it would have been impossible to live probably.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Come to think of it, but
Anyway, it was heavy.
It was and it was a snake that was tied down to it was tied below the water, and they had to release it, and then they had to carry it over this big sort of this high fence,
Huge cage.
Yeah.
I did notice a strategy in the team, which Jeff, of course, was yelling at them from the sidelines while they were trying to concentrate and not drown. That the blue team just sent everybody down to untie the knots, whereas the red team had a couple of generals who were hanging onto the fence, yelling at everybody
Directing
else,
traffic,
trying to do something. And Jeff's like, "What are you doing that for? Just get down there and untie knots." It seemed like pretty sage advice to me from wise one on the side.
Yeah, well, blue got their snake released early because of that strategy.
Yeah.
Now, again,
And we're reasonably quick about getting it up and over the cage as well.
Yeah. But then on the other on the red tribe, Caleb almost loses his arm thanks to Jeff. So Caleb's almost in another mini evac situation. I think.
Who was the guy who just grabbed onto the head of the snake and was holding onto it? It was
Yeah, that was Jeff. That was Jeff Varner.
That's not
it was crazy.
He thinks his weight is going to pull this like 600-pound snake out. It's just creating more weight.
I think he actually did have some success at getting it a little bit over.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
No,
I think when it was 90% of the way over, that's when it kind of did something. In the meantime, he was just trying to break that poor guy's arm.
But you're right. So Caleb's now slipped over and fallen. He's had his arm crushed under this heavy snake. Didn't seem to affect him too much.
He's a magnet for problems, if you ask me.
He is. So Red's having an absolute disaster, and they're dropping the
All
snake
sorts of
as they
trouble.
bring
He
it
dropped the
back.
snake about 8 times. Yeah.
Blue's got a fantastic lead, and they get to the final part of the challenge, and they have to throw these series of rings. It was about eight rings, or it's spelt immunity anyway. So, and JT was fantastic at throwing these rings, and I was just thinking, obviously, he must throw lots of horseshoes back on the ranch. That was my thought,
I think it's
It
reasonable.
makes sense to me. So.
He just has really good hand-eye coordination would be another thought.
Could be, but and
He never would have thought that skill would have come in, but just about saved the bacon, didn't it?
and so JT had a fantastic lead, but then Red amazingly started catching up, and Malcolm was tossing the rings, and he was doing amazingly well. And JT just wins by the skin of their teeth at the end for the blue tribe.
I must. Malcolm's the guy on the red team who must win.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
him. Yeah. He was pretty doubled down on that because he's like, I'm not going to give anyone else a go. I'm doing pretty well, and he had Michaela there, obviously, on his side.
Keen. She was certainly keen to
Feeling
get in.
like I've done nothing in this challenge, which is a correct feeling. She had done nothing.
She was breathing down his neck, basically.
Yeah, basically to tear the guy apart. And of course, I think that would have played out better for him if he'd won, but they lost. I'm not sure how that might play out in the long run there. He was it was double or nothing for him, right? Because he could have said, I'll give someone else a go, then if we lose, well, it isn't my fault, but now this was really on his head.
He's a bit of a self-man, maybe. So.
Yeah.
Well, he's got good form in challenges. I'd be, if he continues performing well, I think he's. Well, this may turn out to be famous last words, but I think he's pretty safe.
Do you have a button for Kiss of Death when Craig says someone's safe?
Kiss of death. It's a good idea. I'll have to get that one.
Yeah, get that one for the next
week.
podcast.
100%.
So we're back to the pre-tribal scramble, the PTS.
Yep.
Yeah.
After Jeff finished off the challenge by saying that was epic, and I agree with him, that was epic.
Yes.
Yeah, I enjoyed that challenge. That was a good one.
It was a good close one.
Yeah, it was deplorable. Michaela said.
Yeah,
The challenge was deplorable.
She was frustrated.
Yep.
She was frustrated. Sandra.
Tony's got to go.
Still gunning for Tony, but
Sandra, in that challenge, got herself into the perfect position where she didn't have to do anything. Again, didn't have to swim out and do anything. Didn't have to throw any. She just sat there quietly and just let it all play out.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then stirred it up back at camp.
Got back to camp, took out her knives, and said, "All right, it's the night of the long knives. Here we go."
But she realised that they needed Caleb and Malcolm because her her core alliance wasn't big enough to swing the whole tribe against Tony. So Tony said that he's like a heat-seeking missile. So he's going for Sandra.
To which I had to reply immediately, he's easily distracted by other hot things. His aim wasn't particularly good.
Now, Caleb says it's too soon to vote out a strong player, as in too strong to vote out a player like Tony. So
He's right.
yeah, he's right. And it seems like that there is a glimmer of hope there for Tony. And Michaela is sick of losing. So it seems like she also wants to keep the strong players.
Yep.
So that's the general feeling as we approach Tribal Council. I must say, I liked the nice string music that they had as they walked into Tribal Council, which is a little bit different to what they usually do.
It was different to what they usually do.
Yeah. No, I like how they've...
Have we got a new soundtrack for Tribal Council? Is that what they're doing? Or was that just for that one, do you think?
I don't know.
It's game-changing.
Yes, it is.
It's one of the few things they've actually changed from what I can hear from you guys from the last season. So we'll have to put that one under the game-changer column.
That is very true. That is very true.
Let's face it, Craig, when Jeff gets up to do the voting from Tribal Council, you said at exactly the same time as him, word for word, what he was going to say on the Game Changers season.
That's one of the great... See, this is one of the things we talked about when we did our podcast on the Australian Survivor series that went to air just recently. Because one of the things about Survivor is because it has a look and feel. And when it's not done that way, it doesn't feel quite right. And I think this is one of the reasons the early series of Australian Survivor that didn't quite work. They didn't use the same music. They didn't have the same sort of little sayings.
They weren't American Survivor.
They weren't American. I mean, but there is a certain look and feel to it. And this is one of the... And despite the fact that we had a different host on Australian Survivor, one of the reasons it worked is because they tried very, very hard, I think, to make it look and feel like Survivor. So you felt like you were watching Survivor. It's one of the great success things of Survivor is that they've had this consistency that does run through it, and they tweak with the rules and they have different themes along the way. But there is this common thread that runs through it, and it's like those little things that Jeff says week after week after week at Survivor that makes it feel like you're watching Survivor. Yeah.
Let's come back to this point at the end on sum up on Game Changers. Okay, that's a good point. I like the fact it's got consistency. And Master Chef, when I watch, that's the only thing I really watch, is very similar. Everything's exactly the same. So. Okay.
Yeah, there was again lots more talk about strong players and so on in this Tribal Council, which I think by this stage we're a bit sick of this talk about strong players because we get hit over the head with this.
Well, I liked this Tribal Council because it really, they were reiterating this point, and when you see it all plays out, I quite liked what they were doing there because they all had quite a good giggle when the whole thing finished.
That's right.
As did we.
Yeah, I think everybody did who was watching.
Well, Jeff, not Jeff Probst, but Jeff Varner, he dropped the clanger. We are a round hole, and we need to get rid of the square peg.
Love that. Quote of the night for me.
And everyone looked at you, everyone's going, am I the square peg?
That's right. Who's the square peg? I thought we had an agreement on this.
No one quite knew who the square peg was.
Jeff's gone rogue.
Yeah. And what was that, a spider or something in Sandra's hair? What was that all about?
Christmas beetle.
What happened there?
Beetle or something.
It was,
Everyone freaked out.
She said to someone, "Stop playing with my hair." And he's like, "I'm not playing with your hair."
I couldn't see what the bug was, but I just
saw a fly.
Some sort of bug.
Some sort of big bug,
Some big Fijian, vampire beetle.
So, the votes, Craig. Can you hit us with the votes?
So off we went to the voting vestibule, as we're now calling it. And this time it was, so we got nine on the tribe this time. This time it was 7-2. 7 votes to Tony and 2 votes to Aubrey, interestingly. The 2 votes were recorded by Sandra and Tony.
I found that really... I did not understand that part of the voting at all. I mean...
Yeah, I don't know whether she just did that just in case Tony... It must have been just in case Tony had an idol and he used it, and at least then Aubrey would go home. And she was just making sure that her second choice would go home.
That's the only theory I can come up with. Yeah, okay. It was anyone but her. But why did Tony vote for Aubrey?
I think it was just because from that earlier conversation where he was happy to go along with whoever the majority wanted it, as long as it wasn't him. And at that stage, they were telling him Aubrey. Yeah,
because I've never watched it before, but watching the discussion that we were shown, the edited, what do you call it? Pre-trial scramble or something?
Pre-trial scramble.
That's it. There was never really much talk of Aubrey in that. Well, it wasn't. No, it was very much a Tony Sandra thing, and I got very confused. And I did like the fact that I felt several of the tribe there at the end were clearly taking the mickey when being interviewed by Jeff about got to vote for the strong people, and I agree with Tony, and they were all voting against him. It looked hilarious when it all came out, I thought.
I don't think he saw it coming. I think he was. That was a genuine blindside.
Yeah, he thought he had it in the bag.
No, and there was quite a bit of exchange between Sandra and Tony, because normally
that's really unusual to see.
I like that bit. That's unusual.
Yeah, that was great. That's a game-changing event.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
Normally, the people left behind don't say anything, and normally the person leaving just says, "Thanks, guys, see you later," or "Good luck," or something.
Or sometimes there's some angriness or some bitterness.
There's not. Usually, people don't say anything too nasty, do they?
Not Sandra, really,
but.
Adios.
She was not a...
wasn't gracious about it.
Wasn't a gracious victor at all. Can that come back to Horner?
Potentially. People can see that and go, yeah.
She's very cutthroat, isn't she?
Yeah, but that's how she plays. I mean, people know that. That is her thing. She's not there to make friends, as she said herself, and as she said in previous seasons, she's there to win again.
Well, that's what Master Jeff said at the end. He said, you're voting with groupthink, and any one of you could be next, which is basically saying any one of you that Sandra says could be next.
Yeah,
because she's the queen.
She's the queen. Adios.
So, Tony, some last words for Tony?
Oh, Tony plays it hard. He leaves nothing behind. He tries to make big moves and he tries to make things happen. He tries to set up spy shacks and all kinds of crazy things. He's a very entertaining player, and I'm really sad he can get further.
Me too, yeah. I mean, he's a great player to watch. He's always busy. He's always active. He's always doing something. So, yeah, that's a shame.
Yep.
But, oh, well.
I'm going to miss his big bald body.
His big bald body, that's all right.
Aren't we all?
It's a bit like that character from Guardians of the Galaxy, isn't he?
Drax.
Drax.
Yeah, Drax the Destroyer.
He's the Drax of Survivor.
We finally lost Craig out of the discussion.
I got no idea who Drax is.
We found his weakness.
Now, very exciting. They had a quick snippet of the next episode, and we're having a drop your buffs on the second episode.
Already.
Drop your
You
buffs.
guys looked very happy when they said that.
Look, I've got the fireworks all queued up to go.
Ready to go?
Yeah, for next episode, it's going to be good.
Fantastic.
And,
Look forward to that.
And will they eat the goat?
Well, Ty doesn't want to eat the
Will they
goat.
eat the goat? No.
So I was very, very worried they were going to try and eat the goat.
Was that Ty's tribe that
It was Ty's tribe.
chasing the goat?
Ty was. He said. Someone said, "I'll have to eat that." And we went, no, we're not eating the goat.
Yeah.
20 days from now, he'll feel differently.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time to discuss the
Survivor Fantasy League.
Yes, the Survivor Fantasy League. Well, this is the first time. Look, we did talk about this briefly in the preview. This is just a bit of fun that we're doing, something to follow along. Where Craig and I have chosen a few survivors to be on our team, and we get various points as the season progresses. And
It's a bit like a tipping competition, isn't it, or like a sweep kind of thing.
yeah. Exactly, and it's just something fun to sort of track along. And we thought to make it even better, we're lucky enough to get some previous survivors from Australian Survivor last year to jump on board with us. So we've got Matt, we've got Nick, and we've got Andrew. And so we've all chosen our teams. We've got 4 each. And just as a bit of it's actually if you go and have a look in the show notes, you can see I've got a link there to the Fantasy League table, so you can follow along yourself. But we've got, at the moment, Craig, you're tied with your team as the Survivors Ready team.
Correct.
Tied on 57 points with Chester's Angels. Who's Matt's team. So you're doing pretty well, 57.
Awesome.
Coming down next on third is a bit Nickish, which is Nick's team on 52. Then we've got the Ferrari Ducks by Andrew on 47, and I'm actually coming dead last, absolutely dead last, having lost Sierra in the first part of this episode. My team is the Dragon Slayers, named after Coach, obviously.
Oh, of course.
Coach Wade, yes. So I'm stuck down on 36 points. I'm not sure how, even though Matt is currently ranked equal second with you, Craig, I'm not sure how he's going to go from this point on, though, because one of his star players, Tony, got voted off just now.
Oh, okay.
So even though he earned lots of points in that episode with lots of confessionals, because you get lots of points for confessionals in this fantasy league.
Tony did a lot of talking in that episode, didn't he?
It was. Well, in terms of confessionals and questions, Sandra's on 16 and Tony's on 15. So they've done by far more than anyone else.
And Sandra's on my team, so I think she's a major contributor to my points at this point.
Exactly. So yeah, so that's that probably covers that. You can have a look on our show notes and get the full list for that one.
Cool.
And okay, well, any final wrap up thoughts before we close this podcast?
Oh, you're all looking at me. I enjoyed it. It was good. I don't know if it was game changing. It seemed very similar from what you guys told me from previous survivors, but I guess they're more game tweaking. But not such a good title.
Well,
I guess
it's game changers, so the people in it are game changers.
Yes,
so
I got that.
It's more
attempt for them to make that point in the opening few moments. I did think it was interesting though, watching some of them who've played the game quite a bit. Sandra and Tony and others who kind of know what each of them are doing at this point. And it reminded me of The Princess Bride, the movie The Princess Bride, where Vizzini and the Man in Black are sitting down and they're going to have which glass has the poison thing in it. And the Man in Black's like, I put the poison in one, and Vizzini's like, well, I must drink the glass in front of you, but I won't do that because I think I'm doing this. So I'll drink the one in front of you, but I can't do that because you know that I think you know that. And it felt a little bit like that watching it tonight. It's like, I know what you're thinking, that I'm thinking, that you're thinking, that I'm thinking, that you're thinking.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because Jeff Probst has been interviewed about this series, and one of the things he said is that they, as producers, thought, right, given the caliber of the people that are playing this time, from the very beginning, it would go bang, and it would be, all in, things going crazy. It hasn't actually happened that way. It's exactly what you said. It's exactly like people are sort of sitting back.
They're all very cautious.
They know someone's going to make a big move at some stage, but they're not sure who it's going to be and when it's going to happen, and they're all sort of just sitting there waiting for it to happen. So while there has been some ferocious activity already, we've already seen a couple of blindsides. We've seen some key rivalries established right from the beginning. People are still waiting, sitting back a little bit and waiting to see how it pans out.
Yeah.
And there's some players who we've even barely seen on screen yet.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly.
So there's a lot more to come.
Great.
Well, I think that's it for that podcast. Thanks very much, Craig. Thanks very much, Dave, for coming in.
Thanks for having me, boys. It was fun.
Glad you enjoyed it, Stu.
It was good. Okay.
Dave. Great. You're Dave, aren't you? Yeah,
That's
glad
right.
you enjoyed it, Dave.
We're all set for next week of Survivor Game Changing.
Looking forward to it. See you then.
See ya.